Welcome to Block 36 of our Celebrating the States Block of the Month. This is our version of the Nevada block. For this block, you will need 5 fabrics. You will need 1 light, 1 medium, 2 dark fabrics, and an accent. From the light fabric, cut 4 squares that measure 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. From the accent fabric, cut 4 rectangles that measure 2.5 inches by 5.5 inches. From the dark number 2 fabric, cut 4 squares that measure 3 inches by 3 inches and 1 square that measures 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. From the medium fabric, cut 4 squares that are 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. From the dark number 1 fabric, cut 4 squares that measure 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. With the right sides together, make the following sets of 2 3.5 inch squares. 2 dark number 1 fabrics with 2 light squares, 2 dark number 1 squares with 2 medium squares, and 2 medium squares with 2 light squares. You can draw a line corner to corner on the top square of each set for a line to follow, or you can use the diagonal seam tape to sew on both sides of the center line. You're sewing a line a 1/4 inch away from the center line on both sides of the line. Once you've sewn on both sides of the line, you can either cut on the line using a scissors or you can use your rotary cutter. Press all of these units towards the darker fabric. Once they're pressed, trim each of the squares down to 3 inches by 3 inches. I like to use my block lock ruler because it has the channel in the back that I can put right over the seam. Now it's time to piece the 4 corners of the block. Use 1/4 inch seam allowances. Piece the half square triangle block that's made from the light and medium fabrics to the dark number 2 square. Piece the remaining half square triangle blocks to each other, making sure you're sewing the dark number 1 fabrics to each other. You want to make a trapezoid, not a triangle. The light and medium fabrics should be in opposite corners. For these units, press towards the dark number 2 square or the plain square and the half square triangle block that has the medium fabric. Sew these 2 units together. The seam in the center should nest. The dark number 1 and medium fabrics should both make trapezoids that mirror each other. press towards the side that has the plain square or the dark number 2 square. These units should measure 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. Combine the 4 corners with the remaining cut pieces. Lay it out in 3 rows. 2 of the rows with corner pieces separated by accent rectangles, and 1 row of accent rectangles separated with a 2.5 inch center square. All of the plain squares should be in the center of the block. Sew the rows together and double check each time you add a new piece to make sure you have everything in the correct order. For each of the 3 rows, you want to press towards the accent rectangle. Just 2 more seams and our Nevada block is done. Sew the rows together and press towards the center row. The seams in the center should nest together. You can pin if you like. Once pressed, this block should measure 12.5 inches by 12.5 inches. If this is the first state block you've seen, we hope you'll check the description below for the link to the other 35 blocks that are available so far. We invite you to hit the like button, to leave a comment and tell us how you're doing on your blocks for the Celebrating the States Block of the Month. Share with your quilting friends so they can make a quilt too, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and happy quilting!